A vision stolen by our hackers was previously acquired by US intelligence during a telepathic contact with a quantum computer enhanced by biotechnologies. This computer can randomly establish a telepathic contact upon request. The test for the quantum computer was the following, apparently. Ensure a stable mental kinetic link with any human-like a being. Analyst was holding printed forms. There's a ton of work ahead. He and his department have to reformat a ton of data. The dialogues and information were obtained during the biocomputer's contact with an unknown person, who apparently was captured by the Kinoplanetians. In front of me there were several beings. Tell me, they were more like humans than someone else. Giants no less than 3, maybe even 4 meters tall.
Hey, who's here?
Currently, we know for certain that there are many civilizations in space about which...
My God, they were submerged alive in those prisms. Wait.
Why was I abducted to this space, abandoned, lost ship, wrecked and stuck somewhere on the moon? In order to understand that humanoid six-fingered alien giants dressed in tight jumpsuits and spheres are also mortal? Or in order to know their greatness and the essence of their history? I've already lost track of time. How long have I been here? A day, 2 days, a week? Gradually, exhaustion of the body set in. Attacks of debilitating nausea and headache appeared more and more often. Black flashes appeared in the eyes. I wandered along the endless corridor of a multi-mile ship. It was as if they had deliberately taken me into this corridor and wanted to force me to walk it from beginning to end, studying the bas-reliefs on the walls and the spheres covered with images. When you touched the images in your head, it was as if a portal opened. The images penetrated directly into your mind and revealed themselves in all the crushing dynamics and light. The view was again clouded by black flashes that beat inwards and pulsed, blocking the view, blinding. Nausea was added to all this. At that moment, I realized by instinct, felt and was horrified. This is radiation, a very powerful field in which I have been staying for God knows how long. Even if not from the very beginning of the journey, but still there was a feeling and confidence that I was a suicide bomber. I would die here from hunger, exhaustion. But now when I realized that I was surrounded by radiation, a feeling of fear arose. I did not want to die like that from something unnatural. I leaned against a bas-relief wall covered with a snow-white substance or material like our ivory. The image showed to my vision a battle between primitive people and unimaginable monsters, gigantic giants with human bodies and animal heads. Some of the monsters were reptilian hybrids. In a fit of impotence, I leaned on the bas-relief, forgetting that touching any image instantly takes my mind back to those epochs, introducing myself into the whirlpool of events of that time. I saw how a huge modular structure had driven its many-meter-long body into the rocky shore. The structure was burning with a blue squat flame. It seemed to me that this flame does not burn. It is safe. I was inside the vision, but at the same time I was above it, great and huge, as if the creator of all things. Is this the Ark? The voice that had already spoken to me sounded in my head. This was the essence of the ship, its brain, the control matrix in contact with the mental fibers.
In your language, yes. It is the repository of all that exists, alive and correctly created on your planet in the days of the birthright of living, thinking beings.
Then a voice literally screamed in my ear,
"Don't look away!"
I saw how literally through the wall of a huge structure, which is a rectangle divided into huge cells, various living creatures, animals and birds protrude onto the rocky shore. It was a Babylonian festival, a whirlpool of creatures. They obeyed strong psi radiation and walked in an even line, the thickness of which exceeded several hundred meters. Among the living creatures that I had never seen before, and which had nothing to do with modern flora and fauna, there were also humanoid creatures, completely naked, beautifully built, white-skinned. No, not just white-skinned. Their skin was snow-white. Their eyes had a red hue and shone with an inner light, large mouths and little flattened noses. Creatures, humanoid creatures. Or are they still people? The voice was entering his mind again.
This is one of the experiments. These are the people of the planet Vicea. Your scientists call it Phaeton. After the planetary catastrophe, some people were relocated to the third planet of the solar system.
To Earth?
Yes, look.
The next image showed me a picture of a battle in the undergrowth, sandwiched between grandiose, huge rocky spurs. It was a valley pit at the bottom of which the white-skinned sons of an alien planet fought with terrible, gigantic creatures, six-fingered giants, whose animal faces were bared with an angry grin. The monsters attacked in rare waves, There were significantly fewer of them, but they were stronger. They were intimidating in their appearance. Reptilian toothy creatures, apparently devoid of intelligence, rushed forward between them. What was surprising was that white people used some kind of firearms.
The Earth was inhabited by hybrids thousands of years ago. It was an experiment. The strongest race had to win.
I realized that apparently the white-skinned people had won, completely exterminating the giants and reptilian creatures. Their corpses were littered with valleys, ravines, and caves. The white-skinned left corpses in the same places where the giants were killed, and they themselves moved inland, settling into vast territories.
The book of Genesis chapter 6 from verse 1 to 4 tells us, when people began to multiply on earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and took them as wives, whomever they chose. And the Lord God said, I absolutely hate being ignored by family, because they are flesh and blood. Let their days be 120 years, for there were giants on the earth in those days, especially since that time. As the sons of God started coming to the daughters of men, they bore children to them. They are strong and healthy people. This is one of the indirect proofs that the human genome, a certain type of influence was taking place, which was extraterrestrial influence. We cannot prove this empirically or experimentally, but we can rely on indirect evidence.
I did not know which epochs and times affected the images embedded in my mind, but it was clear that all this happened after the biblical flood. Suddenly, I had a choking fit, and I knelt down, holding my throat. I felt the pain that the whites were experiencing. They were suffocating, falling backwards, rolling on the ground, and slowly dying. A gigantic epidemic has engulfed their entire population, and I saw a flat spaceship hovering over a settlement of white-skinned people who had taken refuge in adobe houses. It changed its shape, spread out like water, and formed again into a pancake, and then into a sphere. It was a grandiose sight of something non-existent, obscure and terrible. Terrible in its looming inevitability, size. I was waiting for the sphere to spill over the settlement, but instead it seemed to draw it into itself, covering it for a moment with a silvery, flowing, thick, and seemingly tangible light. A snow-white couple, a well-built man with glowing red eyes, and apparently his woman, with a beautiful figure in a loincloth, lay on the table. Automatic installations were working on them, piercing the veins with thin, tubular processes. Something was taken from the body using them. I saw some samples, how the devices affect the brain and spinal cord, ocular nerves. A voice in my head was giving an explanation.
Giants and giants at death exuded a toxin that gets into the soil and water. The creatures were infected. The epidemic turned into a pandemic. We had to invade the genome and improve it. You see before you the first people who underwent modification. This is the very beginning of your human race.
A black flash that covered my vision and burned my eyes pulled me out of the vision. I fell down and lost consciousness.
Noah's appearance is not clearly described in the Bible, but the Book of Enoch and the Apocrypha vividly depicts him with white-red skin, with white hair and light red eyes. Some speculate that Noah might have had albinism or could have been partially Nephilim, considering his unique physical traits. We suspect a powerful force as the Nephilim alien influence on the human genome, which transformed the genetics of humans relocated from the planet Phaeton. That person who exists in our time. Noah's unique physical traits were considered divine and marked his calling to build the ark. We suspect a powerful as the ark. Technological station for transferring genotypes and existing living beings between planets.
Without regaining consciousness, I continued to see. Whether it was a vision or a dream, I did not understand and could not give myself an answer. I was helpless. It might be the last minutes of my life if I couldn't wake up. In the vast sunset sky hidden by clouds, a spaceship hovered, representing a dilapidated closed ring. The ship was grandiose, frozen in the upper atmosphere above the clouds. It was not clear what force was holding him in the air, but it was clear that the ship was destroyed. Perhaps the ship was attacked, and he went closer to the surface of the planet from the far reaches of space, intended to hide, but remained for many decades. Perhaps he voluntarily waited and watched the course of development of intelligent life on Earth. The voice in my head thundered like thunder. It was not a dream, but another vision induced by the thinking powers of the ship in which I was imprisoned.
Look.
Looking down as if I was standing on the edge of a ring ship, I saw a lot of people. Many hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions, ordinary people. but among them there were also white-skinned people with red burning eyes. In the crowds and confusion, I even seemed to see several giants enslaved and held in chains. Manually, and with the help of aircraft installations and mechanisms unknown to me, people and giant slaves erected a huge structure. Time accelerated, everything moved with unimaginable speed, and now a huge, grandiose structure reached the lower edge, the surface of the ring ship. People were striving upward. Suddenly the giant ring began to spin, scattering clumps of flame all over the sky. The sky was burning. With a terrifying roar, the ring turned over, and the center of the structure appeared to be enclosed within its boundaries. A moment later, the entire huge tower building collapsed down, dragging people scurrying in the spiral halls, carrying transparent and yellowish blocks. A catastrophe, an incredible and terrible sight. The tower collapsed, burying all living things under it. People fled in living waves, crushing each other. It was scarier than the military chronicles of thousands of attacks on fortified machine guns and cannons. I could not compare this horror and my fear with anything. The vision was replaced by the following. It seems thousands of years have passed, and mountain ranges have appeared on the site of the wreckage. The voice spoke abruptly.
In your geography, this is the Armenian highlands, the borders of ancient Mesopotamia.
I whispered in delight and horror.
The Tower of Babel, or the Babylonian confounding described in the book of Genesis, in our view, is an attempt at initial contact by humankind existing at that epoch, with extraterrestrial forces appearing as a spaceship suspended in the atmosphere at an unreachable height for the technology of that time. The people decided to build a tower and reach this spaceship. Later we found out that people were subjected to powerful induced psychokinetic influence which divided them into groups and languages. No, maybe it also had a psychochemical impact, as in some interpretations of the legend of the Vilonskaya Tower. It tells of certain beings who dispersed a powdery substance inhaled by people